Real Madrid's miracle worker, the coach who bends reality. Please like, share, and subscribe. Episode 91. After Lin Guang carried a small bag, he hurried out the door. Because he decided to rush to the tulip country now. With a player like Suarez, how could Lin Guang miss it at this time? Especially at present, Suya is young and the transfer fee is not expensive. On top of that, no other club has come to compete with themselves for the future superstar striker. Because after the bite incident, Suarez, who is about to be sold by the Ajax team, is not going to dig people now, and when will he stay? After the thought was clear, Lin Guang hurried to the airport. Now whether it is their first victory or the draw of the Champions League round of 16. At this moment, Lin Guang felt that it was not as important as the current team building. As a crosser, the poor information in football is also a very important weapon for Lin Guang. Recruit many good young players now, which also means the future for the team. As Manchester United's football manager, future stars such as Mbappe and Haaland will also be slowly included in the team's academy. After a while, Lin Guang, who arrived at the airport, immediately called Giggs. Lin Guang told Giggs if he didn't have time to return to the team the next day. Giggs acted as an acting coach and required the players to conduct regular training on the same day. After all, there is another Champions League quarter-finals against Dortmund next week. At this juncture, recruiting players is important, but the upcoming games must also be taken seriously. Lin Guang was very relieved to hand over part of the team's work to Giggs. Because Lin Guang knows that after Giggs retired, he also became an excellent football coach. Therefore, after arranging the team's affairs, Lin Guang flew to the tulip country with confidence. After a few hours of driving, Lin Guang successfully reached Amden, the largest city in the Tulip Kingdom. And the Ajax football team is in this beautiful city. Lin Guang came out of the airport, feeling the prosperity of the city, and he breathed out a breath of air in relaxation. Just at this moment, a familiar voice suddenly sounded in Lin Guang's head. Ding! Congratulations to the host for managing Manchester United and winning the first time. Fans around the world, the attention to the host has increased again. Reputation +1 is hereby rewarded, and the current host's reputation is 78. At this time, the system rewarded Lin Guang with reputation points again. When Lin Guang heard this, he was also very excited at this moment. After all, although the reputation value grows slowly, it continues to increase over time. This is a kind of encouragement for Lin Guang's firm belief. After smiling, Lin Guang quickly got into a taxi. It was still afternoon, and it was not too late. Lin Guang planned to go to the Ajax club first. In order not to be as rash as the last time he went to Tottenham Hotspur Club, Lin Guang specially called Mendes in advance. Let Mendes contact the Ajax executives in advance, and then make a player appointment for himself. Thinking of this, Lin Guang suddenly felt that it was quite good to have a football agent. Moreover, this broker is still the best in the world. Lin Guang smiled, and then quickly dialed Mendes's phone. Mendes, I'm going to go to Club Ajax later. Can you help me make an appointment with their principal and a player from their team? At this time, Lin Guang quickly said to Mendes on the phone in the taxi. Ajax club? Haha, no problem, it's easy for me to do. I'll call their president, Mr. John, in a moment. Mendes heard that and immediately answered easily on the phone. Is this easy to do? My broker, so powerful? Lin Guang was shocked at this time. But soon, Lin Guang figured out the key to the matter, and then he was relieved. Because, although Ajax Club is a traditional big club. However, this team also has a famous title, Star Dreamworks. The Ajax football team has the best academy in the world. There are players who have come out of this team, such as Cruyff, Van Basten, and Bergkamp. Many football clubs will be the first to come here to choose future stars. Therefore, this place is also a gathering place for scouts from all over the world. However, as the best football agent in the world, Mendes and Ajax FC have a good relationship, which is also normal. Well, I'm on my way to Ajax Club right now. Mendes, this matter is up to you. At this time, Lin Guang said to Mendes on the phone, smiling. It's all right, a small thing. By the way, Lin Guang, are you free on Christmas Day? If you have time, come to the West Tooth country and come over. The manager will arrive directly here on the day, and he and Real Madrid still have some contract details to deal with. As an agent, I could only be in this place that day. If you can come over that day, just that night, the three of us can have dinner together. At this time, Mendes said with a smile on the other end of the phone. On Christmas Day, go to Delhi City? Lin Guang was stunned when he heard this. But soon he thought of his agreement with someone and gladly agreed to Mendez's request. Good. On Christmas Day, I'll come to the West Tooth country. At this time, Lin Guang immediately returned to the Dao. Oh? That's great. I thought you were going to think about it. Okay, I'll get in touch with President John of Ajax right away. Mendez answered with some pleasure on the other end of the phone. After speaking, the two hung up the phone. Half an hour later, Lin Guang arrived at the ancient football club in Ajax. Entering the club lobby, Lin Guang, as the football manager of Manchester United club, reported to the staff. 10 minutes later, a middle-aged man in a suit with a somewhat fat figure ran breathlessly toward Lin Guang. Coach Lin Guang, let you wait for a long time. President John, here you are in the office, waiting for you. At this time, the middle-aged man quickly invited Lin Guang, who was sitting in the hall. And Lin Guang also immediately got up and looked at the work card hanging in front of this person. Frank, marketing manager at Ajax Football Club. Oh, this Mendez face is still quite big. It was very efficient, and the marketing manager of the family came to greet them personally. Lin Guang was more and more satisfied with his agent at this moment. Oh, okay. That trouble, Mr. Frank, now take me to President John's office. At this time, Lin Guang smiled at Frank. Episode 92. Lin Guang followed Frank and slowly came to the office of the president of Ajax. At this time, Lin Guang only saw a bald man sitting in the boss's chair behind the desk. Mr. Lin Guang, this is the president of our club, Mr. John. At this moment, Frank immediately introduced himself to Lin Guang. Hello, Mr. John. At this time, Lin Guang took the initiative to move forward and shook hands with the bald man in front of him. Hello, Mr. Lin Guang. Mr. Mendez has called me just now and knows what you mean. Thanks to the presence of the Grand Master, how about preparing a small feast today, and having dinner together? Seeing Lin Guang coming, President John stood up to the guests in front of him and smiled at the invitation. Mr. John, thank you for your kind invitation. But today I took the liberty to come here for the transfer of players. I came in a hurry, I didn't make an appointment in advance, please forgive me. So if I can, I'm going to rush back to England country early tonight. At this time, Lin Guang replied very politely. That's it. That's a shame. I don't know, Mr. Lin Guang, what are the transfer requirements for coming here today? President John said at this moment, still with a warm attitude. After speaking, President John invited Lin Guang to sit down in the chair opposite him. It's no secret that I'm here today for your Team Suarez players. I expect to be able to bring him to Manchester United during the winter transfer period. I wonder if Mr. John would be willing to cut this player off. At this time, Lin Guang said very solemnly to President John. Suarez? The one that bit yesterday? At this time, President John asked with some doubt. When he finished, he turned his head again and looked at Frank, who was standing nearby. Mr. Lin Guang, are you talking about the number 16 striker of our team, Suarez? Facing President John's gaze, Frank was also very confused. Therefore, as the manager of the marketing department, he quickly confirmed to Lin Guang again. Yes, it's the number 16 player on your team, Suarez. I am now officially sending an invitation to Ajax to transfer to Ajax in my capacity as Manchester United football manager. At this time, Lin Guang continued to confirm solemnly. This? Because of the long-standing friendly relationship between our two clubs, Mr. Lin Guang, I have to remind you. Just yesterday in the league, the Suarez players actually bit Evans player Bakar in the game. This is an extremely wrong act. The Tulip Football Club and our club Ajax will punish him severely. Mr. Lin Guang, in fact, as we all know, our Ajax team from the first team to the future star of the academy, almost proud of the world. Why give up other good seedlings for a player who has a bad record? At this time, President John said to Lin Guang in a serious voice. When Lin Guang heard this, his heart was also touched. Because he knew it was a piece of John President's kindness. Here, Lin Guang also had to sincerely praise the managers of this century-old club. However, Lin Guang, who has memories of his past life, knows that Suarez is a person who is flawed and does not hide you. In world football for the next decade, Suarez is definitely one of the top strikers in the world. Mr. John, thank you very much for your sincerity and candor. I have the most sincere respect for your team. However, Suarez, I have already thought about it, please agree to my transfer invitation to him. At this time, Lin Guang replied very seriously to President John. However, the transfer of the Suarez players has been in talks with the Liora team for a long time. This, Mr. Lin Guang, do you want to think about it again? At this moment, President John was trying to persuade Lin Guang again, but he was dissuaded by Frank on the side. Mr. John, after the Suarez player bit last night, the club has called this morning. They said they were going to look at the player for another season and the cost of the transfer was going to be pushed down again. If Suarez stays, he will spend the second half of the season in the suspension period. Why don't you sell this Forest Light and everyone will be happy? Frank walked over to President John, then looked down and whispered. President John heard the words and nodded slightly, and then he continued to look at the Forest Light in front of him. Mr. Lin Guang, it is not a secret, originally we have reached a preliminary transfer opinion with the team of Liverpool for this Suarez player. However, seeing that you are full of sincerity, as a club, you will no longer shirk. In the transfer fee, we don't take advantage of your team, how about 10 million? If you think it's expensive, we can also. At this time, President John began to make a player offer to Lin Guang. Good. Just 10 million. Tomorrow, I will ask Manchester United's marketing staff to come and work with your team for a transfer to deal with you. At this moment, Lin Guang replied without hesitation. Because he knows that the offer of 10 million is relatively reasonable in the 10 seasons. Unlike the 20-season period in the previous life, the premium for players is very serious. Anything that can be done with an ordinary player can quote hundreds of millions. However, Lin Guang knows that Suarez's future development will definitely kick out hundreds of millions of dollars. Looking at such a decisive Lin Guang, both President John and Frank at this moment were a little confused. They glanced at each other and it seemed. Can I raise the price a little more? Alas. Well, I look forward to the good cooperation between our two clubs in the future. Frank, are you going to see where the boy from Suarez is? Hurry up and let him come to the office, don't let Mr. Lin Guang wait for a long time. At this time, President John waved at Frank, then sighed and said. Yes, Mr. President. Frank nodded to President John and Lin Guang and quickly left the president's office. Mr. Lin Guang, you sit and rest. Wait for the player to come here, if he also has the heart to join Manchester United, this transfer will be completely completed. At this time, President John said softly to Lin Guang. Lin Guang heard the words and nodded his head politely. Because he knows about transfers, sometimes he has to ask the players themselves. After a while, Frank led a skinny player with 2 front teeth to the president's office. Episode 93. Mr. President, Mr. Lin Guang. The Suarez players have been brought from the team. At this time, Frank said to the 2 people at the desk. President John saw this, nodded slightly, and then looked at the team forward who was standing aside. Suarez, this is Manchester United's manager, Mr. Lin Guang. Today he represented Manchester United and offered you a transfer invitation. The club has agreed to transfer you to Manchester United after the winter transfer period. What do you want to say about this? At this time, President John said lightly. For this thorn-headed player, President John showed clear disgust. I'm not going. Suarez sniffed at his 2 front teeth and blurted out. What? You don't want to? Coach Lin Guang, thousands of miles have come here to invite you to transfer, which can be described as full of sincerity. Do you know that in terms of your bad deeds in yesterday's game, many big clubs will not want you? At this time, Frank, who was standing on the sidelines, said to Suarez with anger. Then I'll stay with the team, right? Suarez said with some disbelief. Ahem. As far as your virtue is concerned, the rest of the season, you may only be able to spend it in the fan stands. If you stay, Tulip Soccer Club and Ajax Club will make a decision to ban you. Frank glanced at Suarez, then solemnly advised him. Then I don't want to go to Manchester United. I'm going to Real Madrid. At this time, Suarez replied stubbornly. Why? At this time, even Lin Guang, who was sitting next to him, couldn't help but ask. For Suarez's attitude, Lin Guang did not expect it at this time. Because I have a dream of being a child. Joining Real Madrid is my ideal. At this time, Suarez said firmly. Lin Guang. President John. Frank. This guy is really a prickly guy. Otherwise, Suarez in his youth would not have bitten people indiscriminately. This guy now swears that he has a dream of a child, but in the end, he has become a Barcelona legend. Lin Guang pressed his forehead, and he also had some headaches at this time. Suarez, if you move to Manchester United, as a manager, I will give you more room to play. You're going to succeed at Manchester United and grow into a world-class superstar. At this time, Lin Guang tried to communicate with Suarez. No. If I can't stay in Ajax, then I'd rather play in La Liga. Suarez still stuck to his ideas. Lin Guang heard that it was full of black lines. Now Suya seems to be unable to communicate with him normally, right? Do you have to give up on that? However, with the system, he is the one who wants to become the godfather of football. If even Suya, the stinky boy, can't clean up, what else is he, the godfather of football? At this time, looking at Suya's attitude, Lin Guang's temper also rose at once. System, how many prestige points are needed to recruit Suarez? At this moment, Lin Guang immediately communicated with the system in his brain. Ding. Back to the host, the Suarez player needs a reputation value of 78. The host currently has a reputation value of 78 and the player can be recruited. At this time, the system immediately replied. What the? This stinky guy in front of you actually needs a reputation value of 78. Lin Guang was a little surprised, because this was the player he had encountered since recruiting players with the greatest demand for prestige. So, according to the analysis of big data in football, the system is also very optimistic about Suarez. Moreover, even if it is not for his own use, he can't let Suya join the Liapo team after a month. Because, Manchester United and Liapo, in the League of Ingchao, that is the opponent's opponent. So no matter what, you have to recruit this guy now. System, recruit Suarez players now. At this time, Lin Guang decisively communicated with the system. Ding. Received a request from the host. Suarez player, recruitment successful. The player will join the team coached by the host at the best time. At this time, the system immediately replied. Lin Guang heard this and immediately smiled with satisfaction. Suya, do you still have a dream of a child emperor now? At this time, Lin Guang asked playfully towards Suarez. No more. Report Coach Lin Guang. Please let me join Manchester United. I am very much looking forward to playing under your coaching. At this moment, Suarez replied to Lin Guang very sincerely. President John. Frank. Lin Guang heard Suarez's answer at this time and nodded with satisfaction. President John and Frank were confused. Frank. You say, if we sell this guy 10 million to Manchester United, will we pit people? At this time, President John whispered to Frank next to him. I don't know. But seeing that Coach Lin Guang is so happy, I guess I think it's worth it. At this moment, Frank also replied with an embarrassed face. At this point, with the consent of both the club and the players, Suarez's transfer intention has basically been achieved. President John, Mr. Frank, thank you for your hospitality today. Now that I've done business, I'll hurry back now. Tomorrow, I'll have the United staff come over and perfect the transfer process. At this time, Lin Guang slowly got up from his chair and then said goodbye to President John. Okay then. Mr. Lin Guang is a master worker, so I can't leave you for a moment. Rest assured, Suarez, after Christmas, it's up to you Manchester United. President John also stood up and smiled at Lin Guang. Lin Guang smiled and nodded in greeting, then slowly walked towards the door. At this time, when Lin Guang slowly walked to the door, then he suddenly turned around again and came to Suarez's face. Suya, you are not allowed to bite in the future. Lin Guang looked at Suarez and explained very seriously. Yes, Coach Lin Guang. Suarez looked at Lin Guang, and then solemnly assured. Especially in the World Cup in 3 years, we must not make it bad like this. Lin Guang continued to speak to Suya. Why 3 years later? What does Coach Lin Guang mean? Suarez asked doubtfully. Because, in 3 years, you're going to bite the coconut. Ha 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 ha. At this time, Lin Guang laughed heartily. Suarez. Episode 94. At this time, after seeing the embarrassed expressions of President John and Frank on the side, Lin Guangzai suddenly realized that he had just told a cold joke. During this period, of course, they did not understand the stem of Suya biting the coconut. Because it will not happen until 3 years later, Suarez's game bite of Chiellini. I don't know if my appearance will make Suya change this stinky problem. After thanking President John and President John again, Lin Guang immediately ran towards the airport at this moment. Lin Guang hurried back on the same day. One is to return to the team as soon as possible and strengthen the training and tactical setting of the players. Because of the game against Dortmund, there is not much time left, and it will be played next week. Then you can discuss the transfer of Suya with Mr. Marco early the next day. A few hours later, when Lin Guang returned to Manchuria, it was close to midnight. From the noon of the day to the return late at night, Lin Guang was already tired. He suddenly felt that he really needed a coaching team. After all, Lin Guang's strength alone is limited, and he also needs assistance to help him complete some things. For example, the negotiation of player transfers, and the arrangement of regular training of players. Of course, as a football manager scout work, Lin Guang is still ready to personally check it. In fact, the current several older players in the team are still very suitable for entering the coaching team. After all, they not only have experience and technology, but also absolute loyalty to the team. Lin Guang decided to find a chance to have a good chat with them before Christmas. After returning home, Lin Guang lazily lay down on the sofa. He took out his mobile phone, prepared to swipe the news casually, and then went to sleep. The biggest football news of the evening was the announcement of this year's Golden Globes. When he saw the final Golden Globe winner, Lin Guang's face showed an expression of sure enough. It turned out that this year's Footballer of the Year still belonged to Boss May. It seems that in this life, many things have not changed. Thinking of this, Lin Guang couldn't help but feel some emotion. In the next few news articles, Lin Guang also saw reports of Snyder expressing gratitude for his support on his personal social networking site. After secretly regretting for Snyder again, Lin Guang also decided that in next year's Golden Globe Awards, Manchester United players must enter the top 3. After brushing the news on his phone for a few more minutes, Lin Guang shut down and immediately went to sleep. The time soon came to the next day. This morning, Lin Guang got up very early, because there was so much to do today. He first came to the team's training base. After arranging the day's training mission for the team, Lin Guang immediately walked towards Mr. Marco's office. The elder Glazer rarely came to the club, and in the past he had almost handed over the entire club to Ferguson. Because there are other family businesses that need to be taken care of by Mr. Marco. However, perhaps because of the look at Ferguson's retirement and the need for the new coach to adapt over, Marco often came here to see it during this time. When Lin Guang knocked on the door and entered the president's office, he saw Mr. Marco in good spirits. Of course, next to Marco stood his son Joel. Mr. Marco, Mr. Joel. Good morning. At this time, Lin Guang took the initiative to greet his two bosses. Haha, Lin Guang, are you here? During this time to take over the team, have you encountered any difficulties? By the way, in the first game after taking charge of the team, it was good. At this time, Mr. Marco smiled at Lin Guang and said, Mr. Marco, thank you for your compliment. After taking over the job of the old lord recently, everything is going well. I'm here today to report to you on player transfers. The winter transfer window is about to open, so the team personnel have to do some replacement. At this time, Lin Guang explained to Marco what he meant today. Coach Lin Guang, you are the football manager of the club, you can just watch and do these things. What Sir Ferguson did before, you just keep doing that. If I'm not in the club, the rest of the team, Lin Guang, you can negotiate directly with General Manager David. The 100 million funds in the winter transfer period can be used at any time in the club's finance department. At this moment, Marco smiled at Lin Guang. Thank you for your trust, Mr. Marco. I will definitely make Manchester United the best team in the world. For the favor of old Glazer, Lin Guang was also a little touched at this moment. Marco smiled at the moment, and then nodded at Lin Guang. What do you boys think about the club? At this time, Marco asked Joel next to him with some seriousness. His tone was full of an old father's consideration of his son. My opinion? I don't have any opinion at the moment. Originally some time ago, Manchester United's new and old coach took over, and the club's stock price fell slightly. However, after Lin Guang's first game in charge of Manchester United, the stock price has risen a lot. At this time, Joel replied easily. It can be seen that the commercial income of the club during this time makes Joel very satisfied. Is it true that if the club's stock price drops, you will have a lot of opinions? At this time, Lin Guang heard the words and quietly glanced at this young owner. Alas! Those business statements, is that really that interesting? Joel, when will you brothers really care about the team? Marco looked at his son, shook his head, and then sighed. Mr. Marco, Mr. Joel, I'm going to get busy with the team now. Lin Guang did not want to mix with the education entanglement of the father and son at this moment, so he decisively chose to resign at this time. Marco heard that and smiled and nodded. After a while, Lin Guang slowly withdrew from the president's office. Father, do you trust this Lin Guang like this? In addition to commercial operations, you almost gave him the management of the entire team? Shortly after Lin Guang left, Joel asked his father with some doubt. There is no doubt about employing people. Sir Alex Ferguson chose his successor for 10 years, only to be the one who was finally chosen. It shows that this Lin Guang has some skills. I hope that in the future you will treat Lin Guang the same way I used to treat Sir Ferguson. At this time, Marco solemnly admonished his son. But, father, this Lin Guang is still too young after all. In fact, I have always thought that Moyes is very good. Not only an old coach, but also a world-famous coach. Joel still said indifferently at the moment. Shut up. At this time, a reprimand sounded immediately. Episode 95. Joel, don't say these words again. Especially in front of Coach Lin Guang. At this time, Marco immediately yelled at Joel. Isn't he Lin Guang an employee of our family? Why did the father protect him in this way? Joel asked, somewhat unconvinced. Oh, you stinky boys are always like this. How can I trust you to hand over the family business? At this point, Marco sighed and continued. I'm Marco Glazer. The merchant sea has been floating and sinking for decades. The biggest gain is to understand that a good business is to deal with people well. I also have a sense of pride in watching Lin Guang. If I treat him well, our Manchester United club will inevitably rise. And, Joel, you brothers, don't put the cart before the horse when it comes to the management of Manchester United. To support Lin Guang is to support our family's business. If the team's results are good and there are more championships, can Manchester United be worse in the commercial sector? At this time, Marco said to his son in a serious tone. His words are full of wisdom and shrewdness in dealing with the world. Yes, father. At this time, Joel heard the words, although he did not know what it was called, but he still nodded honestly. After leaving the president's office, Lin Guang was walking towards the team's training base again. At this time, Lin Guang's mood was also very good, because after today's conversation with Mr. Marco, he was almost certain of himself, with absolute control over the team segment. However, the appearance of the name of another club senior official just now still confused Lin Guang. That was Manchester United's club general manager, David. Now Marco's in charge of the entire Manchester United club is also very clear. Lin Guang is responsible for the management of the entire team, while David is responsible for Manchester United's commercial operations. Lin Guang met the David manager at his own joining ceremony at that time. However, the two just nodded their heads, and for the future work, Lin Guang only hoped that the two sides could share the same enemy. Thinking of this, Lin Guang immediately turned around and walked towards the marketing department in the club building. After all, an agreement was made with Ajax Club yesterday. Today, Manchester United have to send staff to carry out Suarez's transfer process. When Lin Guang arrived at the marketing department, all the staff stood up and greeted him. After Lin Guang informed the supervisor of the work arrangement, some staff members immediately took the relevant documents and began to travel. This kind of work efficiency really made Lin Guang not think of it. It seems that Mr. Marco did give Lin Guang all the power of football manager. And the club's general manager David, it seems that in business management, it is also friendly for the time being. After a while, Lin Guang went to the finance department in the same situation. When he said that he needed funds to buy players, the staff also made a move for Lin Guang. It seems that everything has been fine since he became Manchester United manager. After Lin Guang came out of the club office building at this moment, he suddenly felt refreshed. At this time, Lin Guang is also full of expectations for Manchester United in the second half of the season. At present, the players Lin Guang wants to buy are almost all young and not yet well-known future stars. And these players in Lin Guang's purchase list are almost all not valuable. There are players to buy, and of course there are players to be cleaned up. Many players who are not in Lin Guang's future plan will also be sold. And the team sells players, and there will also be income. So, in the purchase of players program for this season, the 100 million transfer funds given by Mr. Marco are completely sufficient. Since the transfer of players is carried out in an orderly manner, then Lin Guang has to consider and build for his coaching team at this moment. After a while, Lin Guang came to his coach's office. This has always been where Coach Ferguson worked. Now that this place belongs to Lin Guang, he has not made any adjustments to the layout of the entire office. Everything remains as it was. Because Lin Guang felt that this was a kind of respect for the old master. If the old man comes back to visit the team one day and looks at the original situation, he should also be very happy. Moreover, this office also carries too many memories of fans in the media reports. Even Lin Guang, a fan of his past life, knows that Ferguson is in this place, signing contracts and taking photos with all the players who have joined Manchester United. Lin Guang decided to continue this tradition of Sir Ferguson. In the days to come, Lin Guang is also imagining himself and each new player signing a handshake photo. Lin Guang knows that the transfer agreement between Manchester United and Ajax this time is only to agree on the belonging of players. The buyer, to the side that sold the player, pays the corresponding transfer fee. However, players have to sign a separate contract to join the team, which belongs to the team's employment agreement. Therefore, the player's transfer contract is reached by the club's marketing department. The employment contract for the players as migrant workers is signed by Lin Guang, the football manager, and the players. At this time, Lin Guang looked at this famous room, and for a moment he had some feelings. After a while, Giggs entered the office, with several old players. In addition to Giggs, the players include Van der Sar, Gary Neville, and Scholes. These people were Lin Guang's call to let Giggs inform him when he came out of the club office building. Lin Guang greeted several veteran players of the Manchester United team and quickly sat around the sofa in the office. I have asked you to come here today because I have something to discuss with you. That is, I expect that after Christmas, a few of you will be able to join the coaching team. Is it okay to be my assistant coach? At this time, Lin Guang said sincerely to everyone in front of him. For this matter, Lin Guang began to consider it very early. Because the Giggs and others in front of him are very overaged veterans of the team. In the memory of past lives, these players almost all retired this season. So, now give them advice to leave the team and join the coaching team, at least it will not hurt the hearts of the old players. Moreover, Lin Guang also knows that in the future, the few in front of him will also become famous coaches in football after retiring. It would also be great to invite a few future football coaches as their assistant coaches. After a while, as the oldest Van der Sar, some twisted lead said, "Coach, I love Manchester United. But I probably won't retire here." Episode 96. It's okay, I respect your decision. At this time, Lin Guang smiled and said to Van der Sar, "Coach, I don't mean that. I'm ready to go back to my hometown and retire from my parent team, Ajax. However, I would love to join your coaching team. I can be the goalkeeper coach and stay in the team for another season." At this moment, seeing that Lin Guang had some misunderstandings, Van der Sar immediately explained. "That's great. Welcome to the company, Coach Van der Sar." At this time, Lin Guang smiled and shook hands with Van der Sar. Van der Sar's career started at Ajax. In the moment of choosing to retire, the legendary goalkeeper chose to return to his home team. For this, Lin Guang is very respectful and understanding. This gave people a feeling of falling leaves returning to the roots, and Lin Guang was also a little touched when he heard the words at this time. "Haha, Coach Lin Guang, I have no problem. At the beginning of this year, I announced to the media that I was going to retire at the end of the season. Actually, I also have a dream of coaching. Well, as an assistant coach, it is also quite good to learn more with Coach Lin Guang." At this time, Gary Neville immediately said happily, "Welcome to the company, Coach Neville." Seeing that Gary Neville was so free, Lin Guang stood up again and shook hands in greeting. "Oh, I'll have no problem. I've been a retiring person once, and I had been discussing with the old lord about completely hanging up my boots after the end of the season." At this time, Scholes said very calmly. For the fact that Scholes said that he had retired once, Lin Guang was actually very clear. Because last year, Scholes had already announced the hanging of his boots in the Old Trafford. It is because of the 2 years of Manchester United's midfield talent, it is really withered. Therefore, Scholes, who has retired from the game, was once again invited back by Coach Ferguson to let him return for another season. "Welcome to the company, Coach Scholes." Lin Guang smiled and shook hands with Scholes. At this time, only Giggs was left without comment. Everyone is looking at the legendary winger of Manchester United at this moment. What are you all looking at me for? I'm almost 40 years old, and I'm tired of playing substitutes for young people now. Okay, I'm willing to join Coach Lin Guang's team." Giggs stood up and solemnly shook hands with Lin Guang. "Welcome to the mix, Coach Giggs." Lin Guang continued to smile. After finishing speaking, Lin Guang and Giggs hugged each other for a moment. At this time, Lin Guang couldn't help but secretly rejoice in his heart. Now the structure of the team is slowly changing, and its own coaching team is basically formed. Well, from now on, everyone will be a coaching team. As the head coach, I would like to welcome you all again. Let's serve Manchester United as a team in the work of our future colleagues. At this time, after the formation of the Manchester United coaching team, Lin Guang took the lead in speaking. Very honored. At this moment, Giggs and the others answered in unison. It just so happens that the members of our coaching staff are all here, so let's take advantage of this to have a coaching meeting. The first is the division of labor, and I suggest having Giggs as the team's executive assistant coach. He specializes in the regular work of the team, such as player training and tactical research. At this time, Lin Guang immediately said his thoughts. Okay, Coach Lin Guang. Performing teaching assistants? I have no problem. Giggs heard that and immediately readily agreed. Good. Second, I suggest that Scholes take care of the reserves and academy. Gingerhead, do you have any questions? At this time, Lin Guang smiled at Scholes and said. Yes. Scholes, who did not smile, replied succinctly. Here's the transfer of players and the transfer of personnel. I suggest that Gary Neville take charge of this piece. Lin Guang nodded at Neville and then said solemnly. Okay. I'll give this piece to you. At this point, Gary Neville assured loudly. Finally, it's the goalkeeper coach and the fitness coach. Haha, of course, this is not the old fan. Lin Guang looked at Van der Sar on the side again at this moment and said. It's an honor. Van der Sar heard this and replied immediately. After the division of labor was completed, Lin Guang finally breathed a sigh of relief in his heart at this moment. Well, now that you're in the coaching staff, I have to tell you all about the management decisions of some teams. At this time, Lin Guang suddenly said to everyone very seriously. At this moment, G. Gears and the others saw the situation, and immediately sat down, waiting for Lin Guang's speech. I'm going to buy a lot of young players in the transfer winter window. So, most of the players on the team at the moment will be left. I will personally call the players who need to leave and tell them that they are not in my future team building plans. At this time, Lin Guang spoke firmly to everyone. Coach, will this cause a lot of players to be dissatisfied? Giggs heard this and said to Lin Guang with some concern. No way, the current Manchester United team really needs to be rebuilt. And I know there are a lot of players who are good, but they really aren't in my coaching plan. It's a pity, but it has to be done. At this time, Lin Guang remembered the first principle that Ferguson taught him as a head coach. That is, as the manager of the team, CI is not in charge. Then Coach Lin Guang, which players will the team purge during this winter window transfer period? At this time, the ginger-head Scholes, who has rarely spoken, asked with some concern. In addition to Rooney, Evra, Ferdinand, Smolin, Vidic, Valencia, Fletcher. All but these players have to leave. At this time, Lin Guang looked at the members of his coaching staff and then answered solemnly again. And in the coach's office at this moment, the needle can be heard. Giggs and others were surprised to see the newly appointed Manchester United manager. Coach Lin Guang, I myself approve of these people you left behind. However, will the change in personnel? Too much? For example, although Nani and Biba are two people, their personalities are indeed very stubborn. However, the football skills of these two people still have to admit that they are very strong. At this time, Gary Neville heard the words and also suggested to Lin Guang with some eagerness. The other three immediately nodded their heads, expressing their approval of Neville's suggestion. At this moment, Lin Guang smiled slightly and shook his head heavily at the several people in front of him. Episode 97. No. Nani and Biba left in violation of the team rules, leaving this aside. Let's just say that the competitive state of the two of them has actually slipped too much. The two of them have not made corresponding efforts to the decline of their own strength. So, from now on, you can notify them both of them to leave. There's also the change of personnel. I think I've moved enough. Talking about these two people, as well as the cleaning of players, Lin Guang replied lightly. Because since the last time Nani and Biba both went on strike, they have not returned to the team until now. For Lin Guang, even if they are football superstars, they must be removed from the team. And is there too much personnel change? For Lin Guang, this is not a problem at all. Because he feels that he is tolerant enough in rebuilding the team. As everyone knows, in the 2009 season, when Perez reassumed the presidency of Real Madrid, the entire Real Madrid players were completely renewed. All the players of former Real Madrid president Calderón were replaced by Perez as clean. All the superstars, like Sneijder and Robin, were ruthlessly sold. So far, in the fan circle has been popular Real Madrid supermarket sale, Terrier. That. Alright. By the way, coach, what about the other players? Gary Neville knew at this moment that Lin Guang's determination had been made, so he stopped talking about the previous topic. For other players who are not in the future plan, let's try to help them complete the transfer of the next team. Players who have football agents, contact them as soon as possible. Lin Guang heard that and immediately replied. Okay, Coach Lin Guang. At this time, the members of the coaching staff replied in unison. By the way, we're going to play Dortmund next Wednesday. Maybe, at this time, we still have to ask the coaches to go on the field as players to participate in the game. Unfortunately, in this game, we Manchester United are the away team. Your farewell match must still be played at Old Trafford. This, I will apply to the club in the future. At this time, Lin Guang, who faced the team's no one available, said awkwardly. Coach, no problem. At this moment, several people in the coaching staff replied happily. Okay, let's stop today's coaching staff meeting. In a little while, everyone will go and organize the players for regular training. Other matters in the meeting, everyone is slowly following up. Buy a list of players and I'll give it to you during the winter window transfer period. When the time comes, we will not have to work harder and tireder. At this time, Lin Guang stood up from the sofa and said solemnly to everyone. Yes, coach. Win a Dortmund club. At this moment, head coach Klopp is explaining to the players on the training ground that he is best known for his frontcourt surrounding tactics. This year Klopp leads the Dortmund team with great ambition. After consecutive victories over Bayern, Dortmund are now directly at the top of the table in league standings. As a result, Dortmund successfully won the half championship of the First League. Therefore, the current Dortmund team members are the time when morale is highest. However, the most spirited player now is Kagawa, the forward-back player in their team. It is precisely because of this delicate front player under his feet, the lateral pull in the front court, that has opened up the multiple offensive channels of Dortmund. Therefore, the current results of the DOT team can be said to be related to the front waist Kagawa. So at the beginning of the season, there were giants such as Manchester United that expressed their intention to transfer to Kagawa. Moreover, Coach Klopp also took great care of this forward player in the team. Therefore, at this moment, Kagawa is often a dictator for other teammates, especially players who come up from the bench and academy. After the day's training sessions, all the Dortmund players went back to the dressing room. Bang! At this time, Kagawa threw his sneakers directly in front of the two young players. Levon and Gotza, you two guys. Brush my sneakers later, and then remember to clean the locker room as well. Kagawa stomped his socks on the ground and shouted at the two men in front of him. Okay. At this moment, Levon and Gotza had to carefully agree. Look at you two, the ball is already playing badly. If you don't be diligent and fast, I'm afraid you won't even be able to get on the field. You clean it up and I can recommend the two of you to the coach and let you show your face off the bench. Of course, a talented player like you, don't expect a big team to sign you. At this time, Kagawa proudly said to the two young substitutes in the locker room. After saying that, Kagawa stepped on a pair of slippers and slowly walked out. Looking at Kagawa's distant back, Lewandowski and Gotza glanced at each other. Ahem. Isn't it just that you are favored by the giants Manchester United? Why are you so proud? When I become the main player of Dort in the future, I will not be like him. At this time, Gotza, who was only 18 years old, said to Levon next to him very unconvinced. Hey, 2 words less, who called people the red guys in the team now? We both don't even have the chance to play as a substitute now, how to compare with others? Forget it, we're still young, stay up slowly, one day there will be giant scouts looking at us. At this time, Levon covered his nose and twisted a pair of stinky sneakers with one hand and sighed helplessly. Alas. Lewon, you say, for a player like us, will a big team want us? When will we be able to get everyone's attention like Kagawa? Gotza picked up the broom and slowly began to clean up in the dressing room. Oh, stay up. As far as our substitutes are watching the water dispenser on the sidelines, who will pay attention to us? Levon had no choice but to say at this moment. At this time, in the dressing room of the Dortmund team, two young players constantly lamented their uncertain future. In the distant city of Manchuria, Manchester United manager Lin Guang is in the training base at the moment. The players were constantly given the tactical task of Wednesday night's Champions League knockout match against Dortmund. Entering the knockout stage, Lin Guang is now very cautious about the team's tactical settings. In particular, in this game, Lin Guang still had to use these players, who he was about to personally purge. Episode 98. After Lin Guang had his own coaching staff, he really felt much more relaxed in the few days of preparation. So, he has more time to study this Champions League knockout match against Dortmund. Lin Guang has watched a lot of video recordings about the Dortmund team in the past few days. He found that the structure of the players in the Dortmund team that Klopp built was very clear. In attack, Klopp highlighted the front line and the low crosses of two fullbacks, Piszczek and Schmelter. Forward Gross Cruz and forward Shinji Kagawa carried out a lateral pull in front. Another striker, Barrios, is an Inzaghi-type figure, an opportunist on the pitch. As long as he seizes the opportunity, it will basically cause goals. On the defensive end, Dortmund's two backs, Şahin and Bender, are also very clear in the division of attack and defense. Central defenders Hummels and Sabatic, the two are also the perfect defensive pairing. Therefore, the current Dortmund team, the attack and defense are very balanced. Lin Guang kept writing and drawing on the tactical board, trying to find out the offensive and defensive weaknesses of the Dots team. In the tactical analysis room, after silently looking at Dort's squad list for half a day, Lin Guang finally opened up. That is, the entire team of the Dortmund team lacks super top stars, and their only core is the coach Klopp. And Klopp's style of play is indeed very easy to achieve results in the early stages. However, players are also more likely to be injured as a result. In particular, Klopp requires players to keep rushing around the front, which will consume the physical strength and physical toughness of the players. Lin Guang would smile at this moment. Oh, this game and the Dortmund team fight for physical strength. Lin Guang threw the marker pen in his hand casually at this moment, and then left the room in a dashing manner. An ordinary Wednesday. But on this day, it was Dortmund's home match against Manchester United in the Champions League round of 16. This knockout round is divided into two rounds of home and away. The first leg of the two teams will be played at the home of Dortmund. This time, the famous Western Stadium, a sea of gold. Fans came to the stands early to support their team. Especially in the south stand of the stadium, the fans cheered excitedly, which became a beautiful landscape. This stadium, also known to the fans, is home to the First Devil. That's because of the enthusiasm and encouragement of the fans and will become the 12th of the team. At this time, Lin Guang stood on the side of the stadium, and his heart was very shocked to feel the fan culture here. But then, Lin Guang still asked the players to hurry to the court for adaptation training. 10 minutes before the game, the players immediately returned to the dressing room and changed their game jerseys. On the big screen above the stadium, the starting lineup of the two teams is displayed. The first is the home team, the formation lineup of Dortmund. Formation, 4231. Forward, Gross Cruz. Midfielders, Barrios, Shinji Kagawa, Ilna. Şahin, Bender. Defenders, Schmelzer, Hummers, Sabatic, Piszczek. Goalkeeper, Weidenfeller. At this time, when the home team squad was revealed, the fans in the stadium cheered again. In the south stand of the stadium, fans used different colored pieces of paper to hold up a bumblebee with both hands. It seems that this game, this bumblebee, is going to sting. At this time, Lin Guang felt the atmosphere of the fans in the stadium and could not help but shake his head and sigh. Immediately after that, on the big screen, the starting lineup list of the away team Manchester United began to show. Formation, 442, parallel position. Forwards, Wayne Rooney, Hernandez. Midfielders, Giggs, Scholes, Fletcher, Valencia. Defenders, Evra, Vidic, Ferdinand, Garinville. Goalkeeper, Van der Sar. When the away squad appeared, there was a boo in the stadium. Lin Guang only shook his head and smiled bitterly when he saw it, because this is the treatment that all the visiting teams that come here will enjoy. Now Manchester United's starting lineup is also the strongest list that Lin Guang can currently discharge. The tactical way of playing against Dortmund, and it's their home game. So in this game, Lin Guang decided to play the tactic of defensive counterattack. Because the Champions League knockout round is a two-legged home and away system. Therefore, in this game, Lin Guang did not have a special sense of urgency. As long as you don't lose in this game. Well, Lin Guang is also absolutely sure that he can win the opponent in the second game at Old Trafford. However, in this game, the most surprising thing is that centre-back Ferdinand returned from injury. This made Lin Guang feel at ease about the team's defensive thickness. Ferdinand's current 32-year-old is the best golden age for a centre-back. Once Ferdinand, when he joined Manchester United, he created the value of the first defender of the Ing Super League. Therefore, the backline with Vidic plus Ferdinand as the core is an important part of Lin Guang's long-term team-building plan in the future. Of course, Lin Guang will also buy some future super centre-backs in the later winter window period to rotate the game. However, Ferdinand's only drawback is that he is very easy to be injured. This makes it difficult for the Manchester United super defender to maintain the state of the game. For this, Lin Guang smiled indifferently. Because, from the second half of the season, Manchester United will have the super team Dr. Moss. These players with the attribute of Glass Man, under the coaching of Lin Guang, is also a player health card. Thinking of this, Lin Guang suddenly had a flash of inspiration. In his past life as a fan, Lin Guang was very sorry for those stars with extraordinary talent, but they were glass people. Speaking of these stars, Lin Guang's first thought is Bale and Robin. But what made Lin Guang feel the most pity was Royce. If you can make up for your previous regrets in this life, it would be really great. Anyway, after this game, most leagues have entered the winter break. Moreover, I am now in the country of Deji. Where will you go to meet these glass stars after the game? Just as Lin Guang was thinking about the future of the team on the side of the court, the players of both teams were already standing on the court. The referee looked at the watch in his hand and picked it up with a whistle hanging from his neck. Beep. At this time, the referee blew the whistle of the game. This Champions League knockout match between Dortmund and Manchester United has officially begun. Episode 99. With a whistle from the referee, the game officially began. At this point, the home team Dortmund kicks off. Dortmund striker Barrios quickly passed the ball to forward Shinji Kagawa. Kagawa immediately took the ball forward after he took the ball. Forwards Grossgutz and Barrios immediately ran forward. Manchester United's defenders Fletcher and Scholes reacted immediately to follow Dortmund's forward. Wayne and Hernandez, in the front court, went to the possession of the ball Kagawa to steal. I have to say that this Kagawa is indeed delicate under the feet. Only to see him pull the ball laterally, he gave away the little P. But Rooney was always on the sidelines, and Kagawa was not flustered. After observing the situation on the field, he quickly shifted the ball to the right side. At this time, Dort right-back Piszczek has quickly run forward on the right side. Just the next second, Piszczek managed to receive Kagawa's diagonal pass in the middle. At this time, he saw Dort's right-back and stopped the ball at his feet. Manchester United left-back Evra did not dare to be careless at the moment, and he immediately headed for Piszczek. But just as Evra rushed towards him, Piszczek immediately snapped the ball. The football successfully buckled Evra. Piszczek saw the situation and immediately turned the ball in the direction of the bottom line and slammed the ball away. Slowly, Piszczek carried the ball near the sideline and Manchester United centre-back Vidic immediately made up for it. At this time, Piszczek did not dare to hold it again, he immediately stepped on the ball at this time, and then the big foot crossed into the box. The ball immediately flew from the flank into the box. At this time, there is only one central defender left in United's penalty area, Ferdinand. However, Dortmund strikers Gross and Barrios arrived quickly. Ferdinand, although strong defensively, can fight 1 against 2. After holding Gross's steady defense, Barrios on the other side was successfully breaking through. At this moment, Ferdinand, seeing Barrios running towards the ball, is also powerless. Boo! Barrios headed for the football, and a fish leaped to the top. The ball quickly slammed into the position of the goal. However, legendary goalkeeper Van der Sar, who has experienced goalkeeping, is also not a vegetarian. Only to see him immediately pounce on this powerful header. Bang! At this time, Van der Sar quickly saved the ball with one hand. The ball quickly rolled down to the side of the penalty area. At this point, return to the defensive Scholes in the penalty area, hurry up and break the siege with a big kick. At this moment, the football was quickly kicked into the middle of the field. At this point, after the opening, Dortmund and Manchester United have completed the attack and defense between the teams. Cracking sound. At this time, there was a warm applause in the Western Stadium. The fans at home cheered for their team's beautiful attack. At this time, Lin Guang, standing on the edge of the court, was also secretly relieved. Sure enough, Klopp's set of side attack routines is already pure fire. Whether it's the scheduling of midfielders, the crosses of the wingers, and the running positions of the frontline players. As if everything was calculated well. This kind of tactical exercise, Lin Guang can imagine, the DOT team in the usual training, I don't know how many times to carry out hard cooperation. Fortunately, this time luck is on the side of Manchester United. Lin Guang's requirements for the players to do a good job of defense, everyone in the opening, successfully completed. At this moment, the football that was successfully released by Scholes in the penalty area was flying towards the middle line of the stadium. Gradually, the football fell rapidly. At the moment, Rooney and Shaheen of the players on both sides occupied the best position to grab the ball. Boo! Rooney managed to grab the ball and smashed it over his head to Giggs at the back. At this moment, Manchester United successfully won the ball. I have to say that although Lukaku's figure is not tall, his body is very strong. Shaheen, who competed with him for the top of the header, looked a little thin. At this time, Manchester United, who grabbed the ball, began to counterattack. However, as soon as Giggs got the ball, Dortmund's players were in front of the field and rounded up the ball. At this time, Giggs was preparing to get up and screen the ball straight to Hernandez, who had already run successfully in the front. However, the moment Giggs was about to pass the ball, 2 or 3 Dort players immediately came to grab the ball. Giggs had to give up the idea of a long pass at the back, and he had to pass the ball back to Wayne Rooney. But when Rooney took the ball, 3 other players snatched at his feet. Dortmund's disregarded, frenzied rush to grab the ball at this time made the Manchester United players who controlled the ball miserable. Give me control of the ball. Pass the ball to the striker in front of you when you have the chance. If you can't do it, just send it back to me immediately. But don't throw the ball at me. At this time, Lin Guang stood on the side of the court and loudly commanded on the spot. For Dort's method of encircling and robbing, Lin Guang also felt that it was really difficult. Looking at the players' struggling expressions at this moment, as the head coach, Lin Guang also had to quickly give everyone encouragement. Lin Guang knows that as long as he continues to persevere, his team will have a big chance of winning. Because sacrificing the physical strength of the players in advance in order to grab the ball is very uneconomical in the second half of the game. So, Klopp's tactic is to try to score in the first half, concentrate on firepower, and then lead the score. In the second half, with a lead, fight with your opponent to defend and control the ball. However, how could Lin Guang, who had already seen through the plan of the other team, let the other side succeed easily? Therefore, he also asked Manchester United's players to control the ball and counter-snatch at all costs. Because Lin Guang now has a bottle of team strength potion in the system backpack, it is the biggest competence he has arranged in this way. Finally, under the constant possession of Manchester United, they suddenly discovered a defensive flaw in Dortmund. Seeing Scholes, who was in possession, he immediately passed the ball to Hernandez, who was unguarded in front. Hernandez's playing is characterized by his small and agile play, so fans call him Little P. Greeted by Scholes's pass at this moment, Hernandez reacted quickly and then counter-offside successfully. At this moment, I saw that Little P kept holding the ball forward, and was about to face the Dort goalkeeper and play a single knife ball. Episode 100. Hernandez, though dexterous, was not fast. Seeing that he had brought the ball to the edge of the penalty area, he was bound to hit the goal immediately. However, at the moment when he raised his foot to adjust the intensity of his kick, Dortmund's defender immediately caught up. Yikes! Suddenly, Hernandez, who was about to knock on the door, let out a scream. At this moment, only to see the tall and strong Dort defender, Hummels directly knocked the Little P away. At this time, Hummels successfully snatched the ball down. No fouls. Hummels used reasonable collisions to put the ball at his feet again. After a while, the Dort centre-back immediately passed the ball to Shaheen, the back in front. As an offensive back, Shaheen is still very good in the field of vision. At this moment, he and frontline Shinji Kagawa kept making passing coordination in midfield. After a while, the football was successfully controlled by Dortmund's players to the Manchester United backfield. The players of the whole team of the Dortmund team, in the field of passing and controlling the ball, although Barca is a lot worse, but the success rate is also very high. There have been media reports that Klopp often let the players, blindfolded, pass each other to practice. Therefore, at this time, Manchester United's defenders, in the case of not being able to grab the ball, began to be a little impatient. At this time, Barrios was seen quickly lurking in the Manchester United penalty area. Kagawa, who was holding the ball sideways at this moment, saw Barrios' wonderful running position. Kagawa slammed the ball to the side and was about to use his left foot to pick out the pass into the penalty area. However, Fletcher, who had already been annoyed by the other party's pass, immediately shoved towards Kagawa's feet. Just then, Kagawa immediately lifted the ball forward and fell down. Beep. At this moment, the referee immediately blew the whistle of a foul. Just the next second, Fletcher received a yellow card warning from the referee. Giggs and his teammates quickly pulled aside Fletcher, who was about to talk to the referee. Shinji Kagawa slowly got up from the turf, his face full of playful smiles. Beep. At this time, the referee signaled that it was a free kick in front of the penalty area. A free kick in this position is quite dangerous. So the players of Manchester United immediately lined up a defensive wall in the penalty area. Kagawa, on the other hand, naturally picked up the soccer ball next to him, placed it at the penalty spot, and then stepped on it with his foot. At this moment, tall players like Ferdinand and Vidic immediately stood at the forefront of the human wall. Small players like Scholes and Hernandez are on either side of the goal, ready to defend the goalkeeper. Kagawa, can this free kick be given to me? At this time, Shaheen came to Shinji Kagawa's side and pleaded with him. It can be seen that Shaheen has a very strong idea of the penalty for this free kick. Klopp did not set out who would be the first free kick and penalty taker in the team. Therefore, Shaheen, who participated in the free kick in front of the penalty area this time, is entitled to ask himself to take the penalty. No. This game against Manchester United, I can perform well. Don't you see that their manager is looking at me seriously right now? At this time, in the face of Shaheen's request, Kagawa immediately refused, without hesitation. Well, then, Shaheen said with some disappointment. Then he walked away slowly. Kagawa stood in front of the football, looked at the human wall in front of him, and looked at Lin Guang standing on the sidelines. Just like my good performance, during the winter window transfer period, Manchester United should ask me to transfer, right? At this moment, Kagawa smiled confidently. Beep. At this time, the referee blew a whistle indicating that the Dortmund team could take a free kick. Kagawa smelled the whistle and immediately took a few steps back in the direction of the football. Seeing this, Kagawa, after charging backwards, he immediately kicked vigorously towards the soccer ball in front of him. Boo! The soccer ball quickly popped out from under Kagawa's feet. The Manchester United human wall, dominated by Vidic and Ferdinand, immediately jumped high. However, this ball, kicked by Shinji Kagawa, drew a beautiful parabola. At this moment, the ball directly bypassed the high-jumping Manchester United player and flew directly towards the bottom left corner of the goal. At this time, Van der Sar and the two players who played blocking the goal immediately reacted defensively. However, the speed of this ball is really too fast. Van der Sar and others, it was too late to save this ball. In this instant, the football flew smoothly into the net. Ball, it's in. Shinji Kagawa scored the first goal for Dortmund. At the moment, Dortmund led Manchester United 1-0 at home. Beep. At this moment, the referee's right hand was raised to the middle of the court and then the whistle of the goal was effective. Wow. In the next second, in the Western Stadium, the cheers were overwhelming. The fans at home kept shouting Kagawa's name at this time. After scoring the goal, Kagawa ran excitedly to the side of the court, and then kept waving his arms and shouting. After a while, Kagawa, in the process of celebrating, inadvertently walked to a short distance from Lin Guang's side. Kagawa celebrated with his teammates who had come to high-five him, while showing himself in front of Hayashi. At this moment, Kagawa immediately looked at Manchester United coach Lin Guang with a playful look. Didn't you Manchester United want to buy me at the beginning of the season? I know my current strength. Scold. Hurry up and beg me. Please let me transfer. Haha. At this time, Shinji Kagawa smiled confidently at Lin Guang. At this moment, Lin Guang received this inexplicable gaze, and then he looked at the number 23 player of Dortmund. What is this man looking at? Why are you looking at me with such a strange smile? Didn't you just score a free kick? Is he provoking me? At this time, Lin Guang also looked at Shinji Kagawa with a puzzled look. After a while, Lin Guang ignored it and then hurried to comfort the Manchester United player who had lost the ball at this moment. For Klopp's reckless style of play, Lin Guang also knows that conceding the ball in the first half is a matter of high probability. Therefore, in the face of the current situation where the team is 1 point behind, Lin Guang is not annoyed now. He knew that United's counterattack was in the second half.